Elon Musk, the guy behind Tesla, SpaceX, and now Twitter, isn't one to hold back when he sees something shady. Recently, he's been sounding the alarm on none other than Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, WEF, warning us that they might not be as harmless as they seem. Musk is calling out the WEF's plans for a great reset, a vision that supposedly aims to make the world more equitable and sustainable. But Musk isn't buying it. Instead, he's pointing to hidden agendas, like pushing digital IDs and surveillance that could threaten our freedom. He's even labeled the WEF an unelected world government trying to control us from behind the scenes. So what exactly is Musk trying to warn us about, and why does he think it's time we start protecting ourselves? Part 1. The rise of a global power and Musk's growing concern. Elon Musk has been shaking things up ever since he burst onto the tech scene. The guy who brought us Tesla, SpaceX, and more recently took over Twitter is no stranger to controversy. He's known for going against the grain, never hesitating to call out powerful figures and organizations when he sees things heading in the wrong direction. And now Musk has set his sights on an especially big target, the World Economic Forum, or WEF, and its founder, Klaus Schwab. If you don't know much about the WEF, they're a group that brings together the world's elite, politicians, CEOs, tech giants, and influential thinkers, all under one roof every year in Davos, Switzerland. The goal, at least on paper, is to tackle global issues, from climate change to economic inequality. They claim to be pushing for a better world, but Musk sees something darker in their agenda. He's warning us all that this isn't just about solving problems, it's about consolidating power on a global scale, with Schwab and his WEF buddies in the driver's seat. Musk is sounding the alarm on what he sees as a move toward a one-world government, and he's urging everyone to stay alert. Musk's skepticism toward Schwab and the WEF isn't something that just cropped up overnight. For years, he's been keeping a wary eye on them, especially as they push forward with something they call the Great Reset. This term, the Great Reset, probably sounds like something out of a sci-fi thriller, but it's very real. Schwab and the WEF introduced it as a response to the economic turmoil caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. They described it as a plan to rebuild society with more equitable outcomes, by rethinking how we handle investments, wealth distribution, and even how governments should operate. On the surface, it sounds like a positive, hopeful initiative, but many, Musk included, believe there's more going on under the hood. To Musk and others who share his concerns, the Great Reset isn't just about rebalancing the scales, it's about control. They see it as a sneaky, top-down approach to push policies that would give elites, like Schwab and his pals, even more influence over how the world operates. The vision of the Great Reset includes ambitious ideas, digital ID cards, universal vaccination, and even reducing private ownership in favor of community goods. According to Musk, these kinds of measures aren't about helping the common person, but about cementing control. For instance, think about the digital IDs. Imagine a world where every single transaction you make, every piece of information you access, and every place you go is monitored through a digital ID tied to your personal data. To Musk, this is crossing a line, and it's something he's determined to fight against. Recently, Musk didn't hold back in voicing his opinions about Schwab and the WEF. He took to Twitter, as he often does, and posted something that got a lot of attention. Musk called the WEF an unelected world government that nobody asked for or wanted. For him, it's troubling that a single organization, led by a few elites, could wield such global influence without anyone voting them in or even asking for their guidance. And he's not alone in this. Thousands of people chimed in, supporting Musk's stance and expressing their own concerns about the WEF's reach. Musk even ran a poll on Twitter asking his followers if they thought the WEF should be in charge of the world. The answer? A resounding no. But here's the thing. This isn't just a recent beef. Musk's criticisms of the WEF go way back. He's been openly dismissive of the organization for years, calling it boring at one point and even claiming he declined their invitation to their annual gathering. The WEF organizers later claimed that Musk was never invited in the first place, but that didn't stop him from taking jabs at them. In fact, it almost seems like the WEF represents everything Musk is wary of, a centralized authority telling people how to live and what's best for them without giving them a voice. So why does Musk distrust the WEF so much? It goes beyond just personality clashes or a dislike for bureaucratic talk. For him, it's about the bigger picture and what he sees as a creeping globalism that could threaten personal freedom. Musk doesn't want one powerful group, no matter how noble they claim to be, making sweeping decisions that impact every country, government, and individual. He's especially concerned about how much the WEF influences the tech world, economics, and even public health policy. This distrust is also tied to Musk's views on something known as ESG, environmental, social, and governance scores. These are ratings that assess how well companies align with social and environmental values. Sounds harmless enough, right? But Musk has publicly slammed ESG scores, calling them the devil incarnate. Why such strong words? For Musk, ESG scores are a way for institutions to control companies by dictating which values they should prioritize. In Musk's view, it's just another tool for elite organizations to steer the economy and push a particular agenda. Tesla, despite being one of the most eco-friendly car companies out there, was removed from the S&P 500 ESG index, which only fueled Musk's suspicions. To him, this was a sign that ESG scores aren't really about environmental impact, they're about control. And then there's Twitter. Musk's acquisition of the platform marked another chapter in his crusade against centralized control. When he took over Twitter, it was clear that he wasn't just interested in owning a social media site. He saw Twitter as a platform for free speech, a place where people could speak their minds without the interference of unseen forces censoring their opinions. Mainstream media, however, didn't see it that way. They painted Musk as a threat to democracy, accusing him of wanting to spread misinformation and amplify harmful voices. But Musk believes Twitter can be a counterbalance to the WEF and the mainstream narrative they control. This brings us back to Musk's criticism of the WEF. In a world where media outlets often shape public opinion, Musk's control over Twitter gives him a unique platform to challenge organizations like the WEF. It allows him to share alternative views and question the narratives being pushed by powerful groups. For example, Musk has openly questioned the WEF's stance on topics like vaccines and mandates, urging people to look critically at the information being presented to them. In Musk's eyes, it's crucial to have platforms that encourage open debate rather than suppress it, especially when powerful organizations push policies that impact our lives. At the heart of Musk's warnings about the WEF is a fundamental question: who gets to decide what's best for us? Schwab and the WEF argue that in an interconnected world, we need centralized solutions to tackle global problems. Musk, however, sees this as a slippery slope. He's argued that giving too much power to a few people, no matter how well-intentioned they claim to be, could lead to a dangerous kind of monopoly. In Musk's words, this is how we risk turning into a single world government, one where individual countries lose their say and everything is controlled from a central hub. To Musk, the idea of a one-world government is more than just a power grab. He believes it's a direct threat to freedom and innovation. With a single authority calling the shots, Musk worries that creativity and progress could be stifled. Imagine a world where every innovation, every new idea has to be approved by a small group of elites who decide what's best for everyone. Musk sees this as a nightmare scenario, one that could set humanity back rather than move it forward. This is why he's so vocal about his opposition to the WEF, and why he's urging people to think critically about the Great Reset. And it's not just talk. Musk has taken real steps to protect what he sees as fundamental freedoms. By buying Twitter and pushing for free expression, he's actively working to provide a platform where people can challenge the status quo. It's his way of pushing back against the WEF's vision of a carefully controlled world where only certain voices get to be heard. Musk doesn't want a world where we all march to the beat of one drum. He wants a world where ideas compete, clash, and evolve naturally, without interference from elites dictating the rules. Part 2. Musk versus the Great Reset and mainstream narratives. Now that we know where Musk stands with the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, let's get into something even bigger: the Great Reset. This so-called reset is the grand plan Schwab and the WEF came up with during the COVID-19 pandemic. And on the surface, it seems to focus on creating a fairer, more sustainable world. But Musk and a growing number of others are taking a closer look and seeing what they believe is a thinly veiled attempt to control us. If you ask Musk, the Great Reset isn't about making things fair for everyone. It's about giving more power to the already powerful and creating a world that is anything but free. The Great Reset is supposed to be this roadmap to a better world. It talks about equality, health, environmental protection, and so on. Noble causes, right? But to people like Musk, this plan seems like a backdoor to total control. The WEF's vision includes things like universal digital IDs, mandatory vaccinations, and reducing private property in favor of community ownership. When you hear these ideas one by one, they might not sound too alarming, but taken together, they start to paint a different picture, one that feels eerily close to a world where personal freedoms are a thing of the past. Take the digital ID concept, for example. The idea is that everyone would have a single, all-encompassing digital identity. This ID would link up to your medical records, financial information, travel history, and even your shopping habits. Imagine every transaction you make and every place you go being tracked by a digital ID that's tied to a global system. It sounds like something out of a dystopian movie, But the WEF is pushing this as a way to increase security and simplify our lives. Musk, however, isn't buying it. To him, this isn't about making our lives easier or safer, it's about making us more predictable and ultimately more controllable. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. The Great Reset also includes something called ESG scores, which stands for environmental, social, and governance scores. This system rates companies on how well they're sticking to certain values, like reducing their carbon footprint or supporting diversity in the workplace. Now, these values aren't inherently bad. Who doesn't want a cleaner planet or fair treatment for all employees? But Musk sees ESG scores as another method of control. To him, it's not really about environmental impact or social justice. It's about pressuring companies to fall in line with whatever the WEF's agenda is. Tesla, for instance, was removed from the S&P 500 ESG index. Let that sink in, Tesla. The company that essentially pioneered electric vehicles and has done more for clean energy than most companies could dream of, was kicked out of an index that supposedly values environmental responsibility. And why? Because Tesla didn't score high enough on the social part of ESG. Musk, of course, was furious, calling ESG the devil incarnate. He sees this as proof that ESG scores aren't about measuring a company's true impact. They're about making sure companies play by the WEF's rules, or else. To Musk, these scores represent a kind of corporate blackmail. If companies want to keep their ESG scores high, they have to adhere to specific standards, even if those standards don't make business sense or align with what's best for their customers. This is just another way, Musk believes, for powerful organizations to exert control, making companies prioritize the WEF's agenda over innovation or customer satisfaction. The fact that Tesla, a company leading the way in eco-friendly transportation, was removed from the ESG index only adds fuel to Musk's suspicions. To him, it's a blatant signal that ESG is more about pushing certain values than it is about protecting the planet. And this brings us to Musk's acquisition of Twitter. If you thought buying a social media platform was just a business move, think again. For Musk, buying Twitter was a statement, a way to take a stand against the growing pressure for companies and individuals to fall in line with mainstream narratives. Musk believes Twitter can be a bastion of free speech, a place where people can openly discuss and challenge what's happening in the world without fear of being silenced or censored by powerful interests. He wants Twitter to be a place where people can question things like the Great Reset and the WEF's agenda without facing backlash. But the mainstream media didn't exactly welcome Musk's Twitter takeover with open arms. In fact, many major news outlets labeled him a potential threat to democracy, suggesting that his leadership could lead to the spread of misinformation and hate speech. But from Musk's perspective, it's the media that's playing a dangerous game. He argues that these same outlets are the ones pushing narratives that fit the WEF's agenda while shutting down anyone who dares to question it. For Musk, owning Twitter is about creating a platform that isn't afraid to host conversations that challenge those narratives. He sees Twitter as a place where people can speak freely and ask hard questions about the WEF and other powerful organizations. So why does Musk think the WEF is so dangerous? For him, it's about what he calls too much cooperation. This might sound strange. After all, isn't cooperation a good thing? But Musk isn't against countries and businesses working together. He's against a world where all decisions are made by a small group of elites who don't necessarily have the best interests of ordinary people at heart. When Musk attended the World Government Summit, he made it clear that he sees the risks in having a one-size-fits-all solution for global issues. He warned that when we put too much power in the hands of a few, we risk creating a world that's more vulnerable, not less. Think of it this way. If everyone is part of the same system, a single failure can bring the whole thing down. In Musk's view, diversity in governance, having different countries with different systems and priorities, is a safety net for humanity. If one system fails, the others can still stand. But if we consolidate all our power and decision-making into a single one-world government, as Musk fears the WEF wants, a failure at the top could mean disaster for everyone. And while we're on the topic of Musk's skepticism towards centralized power, let's not forget about his stance on censorship and digital control. The WEF, in its push for a more connected world, has been a strong advocate for digital IDs and enhanced surveillance technologies. They argue that these tools are necessary to combat things like fraud, misinformation, and even pandemics. But Musk sees a darker side to this. To him, these digital tools are just a way for the WEF and other powerful groups to keep tabs on the population, making it easier to control what people see, say, and do. The WEF recently announced something called the Global Collaboration Village in the Metaverse, a virtual space where world leaders, business moguls, and influential figures can meet to discuss global issues. Schwab, in a speech promoting this digital village, asked people to trust it and trust the institutions behind it. But Musk, true to form, wasn't having it. He took to Twitter to voice his concerns, suggesting that putting too much trust in these digital spaces and the organizations running them could be a mistake. He's wary of how easily these virtual spaces could become tools for surveillance and manipulation, rather than open forums for honest discussion. Musk's view of the metaverse isn't entirely positive either. He's expressed concerns about people spending too much time in virtual worlds, potentially losing touch with reality. When Schwab talks about using the metaverse for global collaboration, Musk sees another avenue for centralized control. In his eyes, if we put our trust in virtual spaces managed by global organizations like the WEF, we might be setting ourselves up for a future where our interactions, decisions, and even thoughts are monitored and influenced by those in power. At the end of the day, Musk's message is simple but powerful. Question authority, especially when that authority seems eager to control every aspect of your life. He's not saying every aspect of the WEF or the Great Reset is inherently bad. He's saying we need to be cautious about what we give up in exchange for security, unity, or convenience. Musk isn't willing to take these institutions at face value, and he doesn't think we should either. What makes Musk's stance so compelling is that he's not afraid to take risks to make his point. By taking over Twitter, publicly criticizing the WEF and fighting against ESG scores, he's not just talking about freedom, he's actively working to protect it. He's using his platform and his influence to give people a chance to push back against what he sees as a creeping authoritarianism disguised as progress. Part 3. Musk's warning for the future and the call to stay vigilant. If you followed along this far, you're probably getting a clearer picture of why Musk has been so vocal about the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, and the idea of centralized control. But there's more to this story, especially when it comes to technology and surveillance. Musk has warned that as technology advances, we could be trading in more of our freedom than we realize. Think of it this way. Every new digital tool, from smartphones to virtual meeting spaces, has the potential to shape or even limit how we live. And if those tools are in the hands of powerful organizations with global ambitions, like the WEF, it's easy to see how things could quickly get out of our control. One of Musk's biggest concerns with all this new technology is how it can be used to monitor and manipulate people. We've already seen this happen to some extent with social media algorithms, which can shape what news we see and even how we feel about certain topics. But Musk is worried about something bigger. A future where we're tracked, monitored, and influenced not just by algorithms but by global organizations with their own agendas. And while he isn't against technology, he's a tech billionaire after all. He's all about making sure that tech serves us, not the other way around. Take, for example, the idea of digital IDs. This is one of the concepts the WEF has been promoting, supposedly as a way to make life easier by centralizing everything about you in one convenient digital identity. It would store all your information, medical records, travel history, even your spending habits. Sounds efficient, right? But Musk sees a dark side to it. In a world where a digital ID controls every aspect of your life, what happens to privacy? What happens if you're restricted from accessing certain services or spaces because of what's tied to your ID? Musk worries that in the wrong hands, this kind of system could be used to control people in ways we haven't even imagined yet. Then there's the WEF's push for their global collaboration village in the metaverse. The WEF envisions this digital village as a space where world leaders and decision-makers can gather virtually to discuss global issues. On the surface, it sounds like a futuristic, progressive idea. But Musk sees the potential for misuse. Imagine a virtual space where powerful figures gather in private, away from the public eye, to make decisions that impact all of us. The question Musk raises is, do we really want to put our trust in a space where we have no transparency and no way to see what's really happening behind the scenes? And it's not just about transparency, it's also about the risk of surveillance. In a digital world, every action can be monitored and recorded. In a physical meeting, people can speak off the record. But in a virtual one, every comment and every decision could potentially be recorded, analyzed, and yes, controlled. Musk worries that if we hand over too much control to digital spaces controlled by global organizations, we might be setting ourselves up for a future where our interactions and even our thoughts are monitored. This doesn't sit well with Musk, who sees free and open communication as essential to preserving individual rights. Let's talk about the potential consequences of ignoring Musk's warnings. First, there's the issue of national sovereignty. Musk believes that every country has the right to make its own decisions, set its own policies, and look out for the best interests of its citizens. But the WEF's vision seems to blur these lines. When global elites come together to decide what's best for the world, there's a real risk that local voices will get drowned out. Imagine a world where decisions that impact your life are made by people halfway across the globe who don't share your values, concerns, or priorities. For Musk, this isn't just an abstract problem. It's a fundamental threat to the idea of freedom. He also sees a danger to innovation. Musk has always been about pushing boundaries, whether it's electric cars, space travel, or even his latest venture with Twitter. But he worries that a one-size-fits-all approach to global governance could stifle creativity and progress. When power is centralized, it becomes harder to challenge the status quo. Imagine if every groundbreaking idea had to go through a global board of approval, where powerful organizations like the WEF decided what was acceptable and what was not. Musk fears this would create a world where creativity is limited by red tape, where new ideas are discouraged, and where progress grinds to a halt. This brings us to Musk's belief in the importance of independent platforms. When Musk bought Twitter, it wasn't just about owning a social media company, it was about creating a space where people could express themselves freely. Musk sees Twitter as a tool to challenge the narratives that powerful groups like the WEF push, allowing people to voice dissenting opinions without fear of being silenced. He believes that independent platforms are essential for holding the powerful accountable. In his eyes, platforms like Twitter should be a public square, a place where all voices can be heard, not just the ones that align with certain agendas. Musk's takeover of Twitter has already had a huge impact. Mainstream media outlets, which often align with the WEF's goals, criticized Musk, accusing him of turning Twitter into a platform for misinformation. But Musk sees it differently. He believes Twitter can serve as a counterbalance to the narratives pushed by powerful organizations, giving people a place to question, debate, and think for themselves. For Musk, the criticism only reinforces his belief that Twitter is on the right track. After all, if those in power are uncomfortable with open dialogue, maybe it's because they have something to hide. At the heart of all this is Musk's belief in individual choice. He's not telling people what to think or believe. He's simply encouraging us to ask questions and make informed decisions. When it comes to the WEF, the Great Reset, or any other grand plan, Musk wants people to think critically about who's calling the shots and what they stand to gain. He's not against cooperation or global initiatives. He just believes that any movement claiming to act on our behalf needs to be transparent and accountable. Musk's warnings may sound extreme, but he's not the only one raising these concerns. People around the world are beginning to question the WEF's influence and whether we should be so quick to adopt their vision of the future. Musk's perspective resonates with those who value personal freedom and self-determination. He's reminding us that we have a choice in how our future unfolds, and that we shouldn't blindly trust those who claim to have all the answers. As we look to the future, Musk's message is more relevant than ever. Technology and globalization are transforming the world at an unprecedented rate, and organizations like the WEF are positioning themselves as the architects of this new era. But Musk is urging us not to lose sight of what makes us human, our individuality, our freedom, and our right to make choices that reflect our values. He's warning that if we hand over too much control to a small group of elites, we risk losing the very things that make life worth living. In the end, Musk isn't asking us to reject technology or global cooperation. He's just asking us to protect our freedom as we embrace these changes. He's encouraging us to build a future where technology enhances our lives without compromising our rights. And he's reminding us that we have the power to shape the world we live in. By staying informed, questioning authority, and advocating for transparency, we can protect the freedoms we cherish. As we wrap up this exploration of Musk's perspective, remember that his message is one of empowerment. He's telling us that we don't have to sit back and accept the future that others design for us. We have the ability and the responsibility to make our voices heard, to stand up for what we believe in, and to protect our right to make our own choices. Musk's vision is a call to action, a reminder that our future is in our hands and that we should never take our freedoms for granted. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below. Imagine a threat so powerful that Elon Musk, one of the boldest, most future-focused minds of our time, calls it more dangerous than nuclear warheads. He's not talking about an enemy nation or some new weapon, but something that's already woven into our daily lives: artificial intelligence. Musk has been warning us for years, urging governments and tech giants to pump the brakes, to set up serious regulations before it's too late. AI, he says, is evolving at a pace so rapid that by 2025, we may face intelligence far beyond human control. It's a chilling thought, right? If even Elon Musk is alarmed, are we really prepared for what's coming?
Show me this is not us, the same old